Just a quick reminder to make sure that you have work shown for every single question or an explanation, and that right now all you're doing is making corrections with the red pen. So anything that you see on my screen or on the screen that I've written down, you're putting now on your paper. All right, question number 1. So we're dealing with a function. They gave us the function right here, p of x is equal to 8,600 minus 22x, and they want to know what x means. They told us some other important information, which I've labeled down below here, that this is $22, an hourly rate of $22. And we also know that this is estimating his weekly profit. So that's what P of x should be. I could have also written weekly profit. I probably should have written weekly profit right there. But in order to figure out what x is, the 22 is going to help guide us. So since this is $22 every hour, we're going to multiply that by the number of hours. That's why number 1 is answer choice 2. Not a calculator way, so let's move on to the next question. Question 2 is a really specific type of question that doesn't really come up very often, but it's still good to know. Whenever you are trying to cancel out variables, remember they have to be in the opposite part of the fraction. So if we wanted to divide yards by yards, yards has to be in the numerator, and then in the next fraction in the denominator, because they cancel out to be the form of 1. So the problem here was with this fraction, because when we tried to cancel out feet, we can't cancel out feet times feet. Feet times feet is feet squared. I would need to do feet divided by feet. So that fraction should be flipped over, so that way we would be able to cancel out the feet, letting us make our conversion with the speed that they asked us to do. This one also not really a calculator question. Okay, number 3. Here is the equation. We wanted to figure out which one has the same solutions as the one that they gave us. So if you look at all your answer choices, it's factorable. We just need to figure out which one of those worked out to be the best. So what I actually did, and you can't tell the work that I did by showing it here, but I put in the 2x squared, the minus 3, and then I showed that they had to add to that 1x, and then I just started my guessing game of picking numbers off to the side and realized the answer choice 4 was correct. You could also just multiply out all of them to see which one works, so you could just double distribute, so 4 different box methods, and play kind of like a matching game. Or let's look at the calculator option. So the first thing that I do here is, well, I'm really happy because it said equal to 0, so that I just treat that as my f of x. So I type in the original and push enter. Here's my graph. Then what I want to do is find the graph that matches up, because if it has the same solutions, it's going to have the same roots. So we're really looking for the graph here that has the same roots, same solutions, same x-intercepts, all means the same thing. So I'm just going to type in what I know or what I got as my right answer, because this is a great checking tool. I can hit enter and bada bing bada boom, here we have it. I have my same exact parabola showing up here. So if they're the same parabola, it means they obviously have the same solutions. You could have graphed 1, 2, and 3, and you would have seen that the graphs would not have looked the same. So here's answer choice 1. I hit enter. You can see what I just said was going to happen. It's not going to be the same parabola, doesn't have the same roots, definitely doesn't have the same solutions. In question number 4, the first thing that you should recognize is that this is an exponential equation, or an exponential model anyways. If you look at all of the answer choices, they have the exponent right up here. Therefore, we should know that it's an exponential. We can also see that she's investing, so she's going to be making money. So right away, when I look at my answer choices, I'm going to eliminate 2 and 4, because those are decreasing. The last piece that a lot of people probably wanted to pick answer choice 3 is because they saw this lucky number 18, but you're going to recognize that 3 was not the right answer, that this should be answer choice 1, because she was given the $3,000, so there's our initial value. So our initial value, and then the multiplier is 102%, or we write it as 1.02. And This was when she turned 2 years old. So really, we wanted to find the difference between 18 and 2, which means that she's going to be getting this interest for 16 years total. This question really isn't a good one to do on the calculator. You just have to read and match what is going on within the problem itself. Question number 5 wants us to find a linear relationship. Basically, we are looking for either a constant increase or decrease. So if you look at all of the answer choices, that's what I was doing off to the side with my y values. I realized that all of my x values were increasing at a constant rate, so I just needed my y values to do the same, or decrease, I should say, because that would mean that it would just be a negative line or a negative slope. So you can see in answer choice 1, not happening. In answer choice 2, not happening. Answer choice 4, it started pretty promising, and then we had a 7 jump. So answer choice 3, that's our winner. Now, if you want to get super fancy with the calculator, they gave us 4 tables of values. We can create a listen spreadsheet and then model this on our calculator graphically. So after you type in all your data, and don't forget to label it, I just labeled mine X and Y, add a new page, and then we'll add the data to it. And of course, it starts out as a big old mess, but we are going to change our X to obviously the X-axis and the Y to the Y-axis, therefore showing a linear relationship. So the only thing that you need to know is that linear means it makes a straight line. If you had done this with answer choices 1, 2, and 4, it wouldn't have been a straight line. Question 6 is one that the Regents exam really likes to ask about. So get into the habit, whenever they say like a situation and then they say, what is a domain or what is the range of blah, 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 I would always write what a function does. You put something in and then you get something out. Okay, so I write in to the out. And what are we putting into this? Well, if we put in the number of people, it's going to predict the number of devices. So if we put in people, it predicts devices. And what we need to know, or what we should know by now, is that domain is the X values. So we're looking for the in, the X. You put in the X, you get out the Y. So people, what type of numbers make sense with people? Well, we don't want like, I don't know, well, let's start listing out some numbers. People could be like 0, 1, 2, 3. We wouldn't want negatives. So see you later, integers. We wouldn't want irrational numbers because that's a decimal that doesn't end and it doesn't repeat. So that's like parts of people and they can be negative, so definitely not the case. Rational, that's even worse than integers because now we're including fractions and decimals that end or repeat. So we just are looking at the nice set of whole numbers that represent people. Question 7 says equivalent, and a way that we can show equivalence is by solving. So that's what I did in my very first step. Now, I tried to get rid of the fraction at the very beginning, or not tried, I did, because I don't really like dealing with fractions, so I found the common denominator, and then I just multiplied every single term by 3. And if you don't believe me, you could just do everything on your calculator. So you could have just done 3 times that, what is it, negative 2/3 was my fraction term. Oops, what did I do? Negative 2/3. And then hit enter. That's where I got this negative 2x from. And then I sorted. I moved all of my x terms to the left and all of my constants to the right, grouped them together, and then ended up dividing both sides by a -5. Now, the important piece to remember here is if you divide by a negative, your inequality sign flips. So if you didn't remember that, you might have picked answer choice 3. Now, let's talk about how your calculator could kind of be used to help you to solve this one, but it's not the best option with an inequality. Equations, yes. Inequalities, no. So I'm going to treat this as if it were an equation. So I'm going to go on my calculator, and I'm just going to numerically solve this inequality as an equation. And what I mean by this is I'm going to type it all in, but instead of putting the less than symbol, I'm just going to put an equal sign in because my calculator won't solve inequalities. Never forget the comma x at the very end. So I end up figuring out that it's 9. So I could get rid of my answer choices 2 and 4 because of that and narrow it down to 1 and 3. So this is more of a good as a checking tool, a good checking tool. I wouldn't rely on this to help you solve this question. Question number 8, I think the best method is actually using the calculator method. We can also substitute it in on the calculate page, but the calculator method will help us save a little bit of time. So I'm given a function right here. I'm going to type in my function in my calculator and push enter. And what we need to interpret is the fact that the car is, first of all, depreciating because the 0.86 is smaller than 1 whole. So 2 years it's going to be worth more than 3, and they're asking us how much more to the nearest dollar. That's why there's no decimals. So if I hit Control T, I want to pull these values out. And I'm actually going to back it up for a second because look at, I messed up my equation over here. That's why it's so weird. Okay, so this is what it should look like. I shouldn't have the 25,000 times a 0.86. Now we'll get a little bit better numbers. Okay, now we can look at the table and see, oh, okay, these numbers make way more sense. So now we're going to look at year 2. In year 3, our x values, which I wrote off to the side here, and then all I did was subtract them and rounded to the nearest dollar. And those of you that were interested in using the calculate page to help you, all you had to do here was substitute in 3 and 2 into the function they gave you, and it will still give you the same 2 numbers out. This is just another strategy, but either way, you're going to use a calculator for this one because nobody has time to multiply out 0.86 times 0.86 times 0.86 if we did the 3 years, and then multiply that by 25,000. We're going to use our calculators to do that.